Yes, it's been a busy week of live streams. If you've been paying attention, I'm doing a lot of these because I'm batching them. They're going to be released as a podcast feed throughout the fall. It's because I'm making way. The next Kindle Flash sale is going to be starting to accept authors in October, and I wanted to make sure that all these interviews were done. Kindle Flashes are a great way to market your book, so you can always check that out at kindleflashsale.com. Join the wait list, so you are among the first to learn about the next campaign. But let's dive into this week's episode with these two great panelists. When you hear book launch, you probably think about marketing, emails, social posts, podcast interviews, maybe some ads. Those things can help people discover your book. But for an entrepreneurial author, I think there's a much bigger opportunity. Your book launch can be a relationship building campaign. Instead of asking, how many people can I get to see my book? Ask, who do I want to spend more time with because of this book? That changes how you build your launch team. You're not simply looking for people willing to post a review. You're inviting prospects, referral partners, colleagues, and other people in your network to spend several weeks, even maybe a couple of months, getting to know you, your ideas, and your work. It also changes how you measure the launch. Of course, I want you to get Amazon reviews. It's the thing that I'm all about. But I also want to know who you reconnected with, what conversations started, and what opportunities came out of those relationships. That is the real purpose of this. Your book is actually giving you a reason to reach out to all these people, but not through a sales pitch. So don't waste that opportunity by treating the launch as nothing more than promotion. If you'd like help creating a launch strategy that generates reviews and creates a pipeline from your book to your business, you can always schedule a complimentary 30-minute book launch brainstorming session with me at booklaunchbrainstorm.com. And now let's meet today's panelists. With me today, I have Paula Skaper, who wrote Rethink, Realign, Reinvent: How Bold Leaders Navigate Chaos to Build a Business That is Crisis-Proof and Future-Ready, a guide for leaders who need to make smart decisions during uncertainty and build businesses that are better prepared for what comes next. And Sophie Lechner, who wrote Unlock Your Impact, the Roadmap to Magnetic Client Attraction for Entrepreneurs Who Hate Marketing, a guide for entrepreneurs who want to attract clients through relationships and a more natural approach to marketing their efforts. Please join me in welcoming Paula and Sophie. Paula, welcome to the show. I'd love to get a sense of who you wrote your book for. Who's the ideal reader that would benefit from reading your book?
Oh, great question. The book at its core is a book about business resilience. When I wrote the book, I wrote it for that the business owner, the founder, who maybe can't afford to bring in an expensive strategist to work alongside them, and so that they would have the guide. It's a field guide to the way I work with clients, large and small, in building resilience into the business. And really, that's what we need in times like the ones we're in today, where everything is uncertain, is we need resiliency.
So, Paula, was there a particular industry or sector that you had been operating in, and are the stories in the book related to a particular group like that, or how did you sort of frame the work?
I work a lot in B2B, so I will say, a lot of the content really is written through a B2B lens, a business to business lens, and a lot in knowledge-based industries. So people who are in businesses that are delivering expertise, right? So that tends to be a bit of a more complex sale than SaaS or a physical product. So the book is really written through that lens.
Awesome. All right, we're going to come back to how you narrowed that down and the fact that you have such a focus. My database in my brain was like, "Ooh, that's interesting. I have to explore that more." Sophie, let's pull you in. So I'd love to hear. I mean, your book title kind of answers this question so beautifully. Entrepreneurs Who Hate Marketing. But like what kind? The kind of what I was asking Paula. Like, who do you have in mind as you're writing this book?
Yes, so it's very much a solopreneur kind of person, like yours, Paula. The person who's really leaning on their expertise as what they're helping people with, right? But they're doing it solo or with a very small team. And so it's really people who they're in this for the passion, for the helping, for having people benefit from their experience. And they really didn't sign up to be doing marketing and content posting and all this other stuff that needs to be done. And so they're at a stage where they've tried a lot of the things that they've learned about, and they don't feel right. They feel icky. And so they just have this dichotomy between the work they love doing and then this other stuff that's added a layer, or that's like on the other side of a wall, that they hate doing. And so this book is really introducing people to a different way of looking at marketing and a different way of practicing it on a daily basis that makes the whole dynamic really change for them.
One of the things of note about the two of you is it's your first book. And I know from our chat in the green room that you're both now exploring more books, which we'll get to in a second. But I'm curious about the decision to even do a first book. So Sophie, I mean, that's a lot. I mean, maybe you don't even know when you first say yes to the project what you've said yes to. Were you around other authors? Like, what influenced you to take that format? You have other ways of communicating what you know, courses and you speak on it, and et cetera. So how did the book become part of the effort for you to market your message? And
Yeah.
what mental blocks do you have to get over to write a book to start with as a first time author?
Yeah, it's funny because I had been around you for years already. So I had heard a lot about books, and it always felt like this big thing out there that I was like, nah, don't think so. And but when I came up with the ideas in the book and I started using them with my clients, and I saw, the benefits they were getting, I was talking about it in different groups and to people who had written books, and they're like, listen, you have to write a book. You have to put this in a book. And finally, they just won me over. I said, okay, I'll do it. And I purposely didn't look into the whole publishing thing. And I was like, I'm not going to talk to Robbie until this thing is written because it might discourage me. So once I finished the first draft manuscript, I started exploring, and then I was like, yeah, I'm glad I didn't look at this before because now I'm committed. So I'm going to do it. It's a lot of work, right?
There is something really smart about that. And I don't know that there's like a one true way to do this, but I spent a lot of time in like the 2 years before I finally sat down and wrote the book, going to conferences where there was at least one session about publishing pathways. And I must have sat through 3 or 4 sessions at a conference. I even went to a writers conference that was happening in my area to learn all about this. And yeah, you come away like more confused. Then you're doing all the noble obstacle thing, like, oh, I've got to boost my numbers on social media so I can get picked by additional publisher, and I have to write a book proposal. Oh, I got to research how to do that, and I have to, like, like you're not writing the book. You're not even testing ideas from the book. You're doing all the ancillary things that you think you have to do. And I'm like, I love that you were like, let me just, I've already know the material works because clients are responding to it. Colleagues are telling me that this is really valuable and should be shared widely through this medium of a book.
Mhm.
And then you move forward. And I mean, there's always more to do. And you had the right resources around you. You were able to tap
Yes.
into a bigger network. That's the hardest part as a first time
Yeah.
author, is not being part of that. Paula, what about you? Were you already part of an author space? Like, what made you decide this is the thing you were going to do?
So I've always wanted to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
I used to write stories. Like I've always been a writer, and I've talked about it for decades. And then in 2024, I looked back over the previous year and realized that I had been churning out like strategic plans for clients, but I'd literally been churning out 50,000 words every 2 weeks for a year. And
Whoa.
I
My.
looked at that and I was like, okay, the whole "I don't have time" excuse isn't real anymore. And around the same time, my now adult daughter got tired of hearing me talk about next year. I'm going to get the book written next year, and she started buying me books because writers are readers, right? So she bought me bragging rights. That was her first little nudge. Then she just kept bringing them home, right? So bragging rights. Write a must read. Like she just kept bringing these little books home. So I decided I had to trap myself, and I put it put the book on my LinkedIn profile with a publication date, and I do not like to embarrass myself in public, so I did whatever it took to hit that date. But Robbie, I really resonated with what you said, which was I had, in the decades of thinking about this, studied. I started my career in publishing, and I had like how to write a book, how to publish it, everything. I'd read a dozen books on how to publish a book. Yeah.
Opposite of me.
But at some point, you have to actually write the book, right? Like your daughter was trying to get you to move to the actualization of the idea. I love the family support. I love when someone else in our lives like get what we do and want to create space for us. And sometimes it's like someone else taking over household chores or childcare chores or whatever, or just like convincing you to not take a big client project that would not be fulfilling you, but would create more space instead to work on your projects. I just think sometimes we need another person to help us see how to reach our dreams. But yeah, getting too much knowledge doesn't always like stir the creative juices about how to move this forward. But it depends on who you are. Like I feel like my mental state was like I needed to understand how I was going to publish this. Now I tell people all the time, like, don't worry about that. Like I much rather people approach the Sophie thing where it's like, if you write a good book, like we'll help you find a way to get. I mean, it's no longer one linear path either. I have a whole matrix in my author ROI lab where I help people figure out it's like time versus money versus control versus support. So there's like 4 different elements that shift and their intention often with each other, deciding which pathway to choose. So yeah, I hope anyone listening just like starts to put pen to paper or, clacking those keyboards so they can start thinking about it. But then I got this like sense from both of you that the world opened up and you thought thinking about more book writing. And I'll admit that was not my reaction for my book. I wrote my first book because I was, I'm a professional speaker. I'm a serious person, and I'm told by the people in the National Speakers Association I must have a book. And it's like write a book. It's like a mantra, like beating in my head. Write a book. And they didn't really always give me like the context for what to do with it. But I sort of in an obligation kind of way was like, okay, I need a book. And I had this light bulb moment that the book was good, like, and I wanted people to read it. So then I slowed things down and figured out a launch and made all the mistakes you can possibly make and got decent results. And then thought, wow, that was a lot of work for something I don't plan to ever do again. And that was a lot to learn for something I don't plan to do again.
Funny.
And then I accidentally wrote 2 more books and published them during the pandemic. So, don't know how that kind of, but like, I didn't leave 2017 being inspired to write book 2. I waited till 21 when it was sort of demanded of me. But Sophie, I know you kind of went from releasing book 1, immediately started thinking about the next book. And Paula, you have multiple possible projects in the works. So Sophie, you're a little further into this. Sophie, let's hear how that sort of shifted for you, this idea of a book being part of your arsenal and what you now are working on.
So in my book, there's a lot of questions that I ask people to ask themselves to help them along this path. And there's exercises. And so I put the some of that work in the book, but then as soon as it was being written and out, I knew that there needed to be something more practical to help people actually do the work, because otherwise it could be a little overwhelming. So I created this.
Which, by the way, what she's holding up is a workbook that is very substantial. This is
wow,
at least a 6x9. And it's
it's 8.5 by 11.
Oh God, it's even bigger. Okay, so it's an 8.5 by 11. It's bigger than her head, and what, 200 plus pages?
Yeah.
So it's a book workbook.
It's a beast.
It accompanies your book. So it's like the book,
Yes.
The book and the workbook kind of collaboratively go together.
Yes.
Did you think it was going to be quite as extensive, the workbook?
Well, no. First of all, when I was writing the book and I was told, oh, you need to put, resources that people can access so you can get their email address. It's like, oh, okay. So I'll put a few PDFs together. And then the PDFs like took a life of their own and became bigger and bigger. And I put that out as a resource. But people kept telling me, your little workbook thingy, it's way too big. It's impossible to get through. So I as quickly as I could, made the workbook because it became this multimedia guide. So it's got videos, QR codes, action steps, timelines, checklists, all kinds of things to really help. And it took a while to get together, and it's still a beast. And this leads us to maybe some further conversation.
Well, you know what, I like I want to touch on the multimedia part, because when you were talking about this earlier, when as we were revealing it, I was like, oh, it's basically a course that people get access to through a book, which is different than like a course that comes with a book. Like people get the book because the multimedia piece, like you're really walking them through everything. What I think is so cool, and I'm curious how this worked in real life, people really get to know you by going through the multimedia experience. Has that changed, like who reaches out to you and how informed they are and how ready they are to work with you? Like, has that translated to the right people being ready to work with you?
Yeah. So those who go through it, which is not everyone, but they at least have gone, flipped through it and seen some of the exercises, or maybe they've done one exercise and really. So by the time they talk to me, they know the model, or at least they have some inkling that this is going to be some serious work, and they're ready to dig in. So that does make a difference, because I don't like to work with people in a very superficial way. So sometimes they would come to me for a quick fix or something like that, and that just doesn't really happen anymore. They know I'm about depth. I mean, there's no mistaking it.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
When she holds up this like beast of a workbook. Paula, I actually I know Sophie got more books kind of cooking there, but let me come back to Paula. Similarly, a question for you about your first book. And then I want to hear a little bit about these projects you're thinking about. But you and I, similarly, the idea of writing a book is to inform people about a process that they could DIY. But do you also find that people then go, oh, that all makes sense, but there's no way I'm doing this myself, and then they reach out to you? Because that's I don't my ideal client doesn't look at the process and go, great, I'll just do those steps. Because that's great. I'm glad the education's out there. But my ideal client's like, oh, who's gonna implement this? Not me. And then they come and get on a call with me. How is that translated for you, whether the right people are coming to work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think anytime that you read a book, you learn about a process, but much like, each of us had our own journey of publishing, right? Some people are going to DIY. They're going to do that. And I when I wrote the book, I really tried to make sure that if that was what somebody wanted or needed to do in that, time, money, quality triangle, right, that they would be able to do it. But it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. And I did not write a step by step, do this, here's the worksheet, do this, here's the worksheet manual. I wrote a guide to, here are the things you want to think about, here are the decisions you need to make, here are some really crucial pieces. And so yeah, I mean, there are people who go for it, and then there are people who reach out and say, okay, I love this, let's make it happen.
Yeah, I've said that I like to describe an apple in my book, but I don't give you the apple, right?
Yeah.
You know what to look for now in an apple, but you don't have one yet. Like, you will have to do some work to go find that apple. But if you work with me, I'm just going to give it to you. I'm going to just give you the apple. I'm going to tell you why this is the right apple for you and everything. I'm going to make sure it's the perfect apple. But it's like some people have the willingness to do that work or the budget to work with you, or vice versa, right? So Paula, how is this, like, getting past the initial, like, writing a first book led to ideating about other possible books?
So I actually started with a dozen kind of soft ideas, and I started moving forward on development with several, because I wasn't really sure of the book that I wanted to write. And in the end, I think I wrote the first book that every expert author writes, which is the one that helps you articulate your thinking. and helps you put the stuff you do without thinking about it, right? That you've just, the skills that you've built into a structure. So I think I ended up writing that book. But then there are all of these other places where, even as I was writing, I thought, boy, this is 3 books really. I mean, I'm putting 3 books into one book. And so there are ideas in the book. There are other ideas that I would like to explore. It's just kind of DNA.
Do you set aside time on a regular basis to work on these different projects?
I will say that the marketing, and this is ironic, given that I've spent my career in marketing. Marketing a book is so different from marketing anything else I've ever marketed in my life, that I ended up saying, okay, give yourself a break, because I will go down a rabbit hole of writing. When I was writing my book, I mean, it took me from I put the first word down till the book hit the shelves 9 months. So like my family didn't see me until the book was written. Right. I would be in front of the TV at 11 o'clock at night writing or editing for months. So I was like, okay, you can't go down that rabbit hole. So I've had to take a step back, and I'll probably start writing the next one sometime in the spring and do another book at a fall launch.
Could you say a little bit about what is different about marketing a book versus the other marketing you've done?
It's just it's a very unique, what's the word I'm looking for? Just a very unique experience, in the sense that you're putting yourself out there in an incredibly vulnerable way, which, you get to wear your expert mask when you're on stage speaking. You're the persona, right? A book has some of your ugly bits in it, right? And so there's the vulnerability of it, but I think also there's this moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I got it done, right? I pressed the button that said I approve this book going to print. I published the book, and then you kind of have this sigh of relief, and you really should not, because the work is just beginning.
Yep.
Yeah. I keep saying it's a triathlon, not a marathon. Sophie, similar question to you. This is an interesting angle, since the two of you have marketing backgrounds. Do you think marketing a book is different than the other marketing you've done?
A lot of what I do, probably much less than you, Paula, I would think, because a lot of what you market as a solopreneur is your coaching, and so a lot of it is sharing your ideas ahead of time, preparing the audience. But I will say that there is a level of vulnerability that does not exist when you're putting a program together, right? Like you're launching a program, you just put the best bits out there, and this is the polished thing that you're selling. You're right, a book is completely different. So it's got that layer of vulnerability that is not present elsewhere.
You know what you're both making me think about is that I like when the author, and I have done this with my books, shares their own journey on the topic. And they don't just show up on page 1 as a fully formed adult expert that I just am supposed to follow as like, the person on the top of the mountain. And I just accept that they have always had this wisdom. When they can show that they went from a place of, not understanding and complete maybe ignorance or just, confusion, to a state of, starting to understand, starting to do the work, and like the lessons learned along the way, I'm willing to go on this journey now to find out what else they learned, and I feel more seen. So that's the parts that are not fully polished. That's like, I mean, we are obviously the ones choosing which parts to put in. We're not going to list every mistake we've ever made, but we are letting in the audience to like the journey and the behind the scenes, like how this got made. In a way that we don't have to when we're putting out like a program. You're right. The program is no one needs to know everything we went through to do that. So yeah, I think it makes it much more engaging and easy to relate to when an author does take the time to infuse some story and some struggle and some challenge and like realness. But I could see how that for people who are not in the habit of writing that way in their social posts and in their emails, like that could be kind of jarring to suddenly share it, which is one of the reasons I want to shift to reviews, because building a launch team, one of the beautiful parts for me, for my books, for my clients, is that the intake form to get people to say, yes, I'd like to be part of your launch team, actually says why would you like to be part of this? And even before anyone has a copy of the book or they've written any reviews or any of that, it's just reinforces to the author, or to me when it was me, the author, that people do have my back, that they believe in my ability to create a good message, that they learn from me and they trust me and they support me. There's a belief in that. And I think that has very helpful in a moment where you're about to like share the book. And then those early reviews come in, which is also really helpful. So Sophie, you did a bang up job. I'm gonna quote some numbers here just so we can contextualize it. When did this book Unlock Your Impact come out? Just context.
March 2025.
Okay, so March 2025. We're recording this in late August 2026. So a little more than 2 years ago. Your most recent,
a little more than 1 year.
Oh, sorry, a little more than 1 year ago. It looks like your reviews all came in the first year though, because of the timing. So you have 91 global ratings. That's the 1 through 5 star ratings. People don't need to buy the book or leave a written review to leave you a 1 through 5 star rating. And by the way, you have a 5 out of 5 overall, which is fantastic. You have like one person, I think, who gave you a 4 star, which keeps things real. 87 of the 91 people left you a written review. 87 of the 91 people. So I hope you're gonna, continue with our Kindle Flash sales, because we're gonna get you past that 100. Like we need 13 more written reviews, people. But holy cow, 14. We want 101. 14 more. But Sophie, I mean, that's to ask. I mean, it's one thing, like you said, to put something out there, but then to ask people to respond and react and write something down.
Yeah.
You kind of teach people how to work through vulnerability and to be more authentic with their voice. Ask, how was this for you to reach out to people and make a decision to kind of make something bigger? Like you built a team and you did all the steps.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think I've ever would have been able to ask as much as I did end up having to ask to get this. But I followed your process, and the way you present it, and the way you, just as you said at the beginning of this conversation, you're reaching out to people, and it's giving you a reason to reach out to them. And I don't need a reason. I can reach out to people, but it feels like, so how are you doing? It's like a little empty. So this is a great way of reconnecting. And in fact, that's exactly the stage I'm at for my upcoming books. And so it's really that whole relationship, and yeah, I've just followed your process. That works.
You were actually following a precursor to my 4th book, which is Launch Your Book, an Entrepreneur's Guide to Reviews that Drive Revenue. I had created a course, which is a course that I give my one-on-one clients to support them. So you were following through all the videos, and it's like it was like the first time I was trying to create a framework and a step-by-step for my process. And you gave me incredible feedback as a person who had just gone through it too, which influenced the book. But I think this is what I'm learning now. It's like there's a certain type of entrepreneur who can look at material, whether it's a course or a book, follow it and get results. It's like so many people don't even finish courses. Like the stats around that are just abhorrent. This is why I don't sell it as a separate product, because I don't think people are going to complete it. But you did, and you wanted I think it's because you wanted reach. So the reviews were a wonderful outcome, but tell me more about why you wanted this to have reach with more people. I mean, I felt like your mindset around this wasn't like the number of books sold, for instance.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think we all, I mean, most of us, right? We write books. It's not because we're going to make a couple bucks on each of them, right? It's really because we want our ideas to go further. And of course, we want people to be drawn into the work and then end up working with us. But I think even more than that, we want as many people as possible to be impacted by, unlock your impact, by the ideas that we have and the work that we can do. And exactly, if, as you said, Paula, if a lot of people want to DIY it, I'm very happy. I just know it's going to be a lot of work, but I love it. So yeah, it's definitely about having, a bigger impact for sure.
Paula, how did you think about success for your book when you first started writing it, and did that definition change once the book existed? Like, were there different metrics to keep an eye on at the start versus once it is now really here?
I mean, for me, writing the book was a bucket list item, right? So the original goal was write a book, and then I thought, well, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book that I can leverage in my business. So that was, the first goal. And then by the time I had finished writing it, honestly, what I really wanted was one person to read it and say, this changed the way I think about operating my business.
Yeah.
And if I could get one person to invest the time to read the book, it's 204 pages all in, so it's not a heavy read. But if I could get one person, for me, that was okay. I've achieved what I set out to do, because if one person does it, I know more than one person will do it. So it was, I mean, you might say the bar was pretty low for me in terms of success, but now, that the book is out and it's been well received and I've had really great feedback, it's okay. How do I get this into the hands of more people? And I will say, if I have any regrets about the whole process, about the way I approached the whole process, it is that I did not think about the marketing lift early enough to have the systems in place that I needed. And so I ended up creating a lot more work for myself.
I have told people that my best prospects for the book launch strategies that I do are people with a second book in mind, because they come to be aware of what more they could have done, or how they may have made things simpler or easier or less of a heavy lift, or gotten the right supports in place, or why like certain things could have been beneficial, and they are willing to put energy, money, time, effort, etc., into a new option. It's hard. It's really hard. I do work with some first-time authors, and they're all professional speakers who were referred to me by a former client, who was a professional speaker, who basically says, "Oh, book? Okay, yeah, stop. Go talk to Robbie.
Mhm.
Nope, don't publish your book. No, no, no. Nope.
Mhm.
Great. I'm glad you have a book. Go talk to Robbie." And they're like, they stop them in their tracks. And that's probably the number one thing I find myself saying on prospect calls is slow down, slow down, slow down. Like, the book being written is different than the book being published, which is different than the book being launched. And like, congratulations, writing a book. Now, publishing's not like, it's not as hard as you think. Now we have to figure out how people are going to read it. Like, that's the hard part. Sophie.
How I resisted you when you said that. Slow down. I was like, no, I want my book out. and
Yeah.
Robbie and everybody else was like, no, slow down.
Slow down. It's just,
All
it's
right.
harder to do. And it's really, I don't know if it's an oxymoron is quite right, but the idea that it's harder to market a book after it's released versus before it's released does feel like not aligned. Like, our brains are like, that seems off. But I will tell you, it is much easier to build momentum before the book is released. And then that effort and momentum will help with the outreach for the book going on. Then to try to create that after is more, as hard as it is the first time, it's more effort as the relaunch would be. Which is why, Paula, I'm really love that you joined our Kindle Flash sales, and I'd love to hear what your experience has been. Our Kindle Flash sales, just for those listening, dozens of entrepreneurial authors lower their Kindle book price to 99 cents, and we cross promote our books for 4 days. But in the 2 weeks leading up to the campaign, our prices are discounted, and we reach out to our own network in an effort to get a few more reviews, using the time frame of, oh, my book's going to be in a campaign, as a way to, like, get a few more reviews in. And it's a marketing effort, so I'm a lot teaching about marketing and a lot of collaboration amongst the authors. Paul, what's been your experience, and how is this part of your effort to keep this book alive and reaching the right listeners and readers?
So I mean, the thing that I love most about the flash sale is that the support of the other authors and connecting with that community of people who are all facing the same thing. Um, and so you have this broad network that's promoting your book to their network, and you're promoting their books to yours. So that component increases readership. You sell books, you get more reviews from doing it, but you also expand your market. I've participated in 2 of the flash sales, and I have had sales from Australia. I have had sales from India. I have had sales from Europe, as well as most of my sales are Canada and the US, but from all over. And I attribute the flash sale to that in helping me reach that other market. And books are like an idea virus. If one person reads it and likes it, they might give it to a friend who would enjoy it. They might recommend it to a friend who would enjoy it. They might gift it to somebody. And so you kind of, for me, that's pretty spectacular to have that happen.
I love hearing these results because some of the outcomes, because we've now done I think 8. I think we're about to 9. I've lost track now. We started in the fall of 2023, and I think what it became, particularly the author community, is far beyond like what I would have originally hoped for. And I love community, and I'm all about building that. But Sophie, and Sophie's been like, Sophie's funny because you were witness to the Kindle Flash sales because you and I are part of the same community group that meets on Fridays, and the Your Biz home base, and you were like witness to the creation of the Kindle Flash sale, but not yet an author. So you were like, as soon as the book's out, like, I'm going to do this. So because you have a marketing angle and you're in the way you talk about everything, like, how do you position this? Why would an author participate? Why do you participate?
Because the biggest thing I say is the reason a lot of entrepreneurs are uncomfortable with marketing is because they think you have to put the spotlight on yourself, and that just feels very uncomfortable. And so the Kindle Flash sale is sort of the embodiment of the whole concept of don't remove the spotlight from yourself and put it on something else. So what I say in general is on your mission, but in this case it's other authors, and that enables you to talk about your book, but in the whole perspective of talking about other authors and giving your people a chance to read a selection of excellent books. And so you're giving, it's generous, and that's what I love about it.
It is such a different thing than like, please read my book, please write a review, please. And here it's like, hey, I'm part of this really awesome collection of books that you and your colleagues might be interested in checking out. My book's just, one of dozens that are on sale. Like, this is a book I always want to give credit. Stacey Larson, like, handpicks books for people in her network and says, I saw a book part of the campaign that I thought would be great for you. And she sends them a message and says, and here's the rest of the link to all the rest of them. Like, and just like uses it as a networking tool. And I just think, wow, like I love, like, this is part of people coming back. I bet, Paula, the 3rd time and 4th time you do this, like, you'll layer on new things. Cause like at first is a lot to kind of like, I have to do what? I have to do this to the swipe copy. I bet people, speaking of people like learning, I had to realize that I have to define what swipe copy is. Like, I put swipe copy in parentheses, email and social post templates. And then I go back the rest of the time calling it swipe copy. But I've had people be like, I don't know what swipe copy is. What's a link? At first I called it an affiliate link. Now I call it a partner link, because I was like, it's just for partners. Like, we're all partners in this. So they're like, well, what do I do with this link? So like, it's really different. Like, certain people are really sophisticated in this because they've been part of summits or giveaways, and they've done that. But I also am attracting authors that this is their first book. They really don't know a lot about this. I love that we're teaching them and giving them a way to learn, and they can kind of do a little bit each time. As we're wrapping up here, my question I'm going to end here with is, because I'm an author. So Sophie, what has happened in your world because you're an author? Like, and then Paula, I'm going to ask you the same question. Because you're an author, blank has now become possible, or blank happened.
Because I'm an author, first of all, I have a level of confidence that I might not have had before. People come to me with an openness to listen to what I have to say because there's that credibility behind it. And people who I don't know from Adam just reach out to me. And so that's something that was happening somewhat before, but it's more now for
Great.
sure.
Love it. Paula, how about you?
Yeah, I would second everything that Sophie said. The confidence boost. I mean, the scariest thing I did was approve, publish. That was an anxiety inducing experience. But having it done and you know out there does give you confidence. It does give you credibility. For me, also, I will say that speaking engagements have been something that is more possible as well in this modern day.
True. Mm-mm.
Love that. Paula, how can people find you and follow your work?
Best place to find me is here on LinkedIn. Just Paula Skaper. I'm the only one on LinkedIn, and then just connect with me through there.
Fantastic. By the way, all these links are going to be in the show notes. Sophie, how about you? How can people find you and follow your work?
Same thing, I would say Sophie Lechner on LinkedIn, or you can check out my website, themagnetmodel.com.
Well, the good news is I'm going to put all of your links to your websites, your LinkedIn, your books. All of that is going to be at bizbookpubhub.com, which is where you'll find all the archived episodes and their links and their replays. We've got hundreds of shows to dig into. And at bizbookpubhub.com, you'll find a curated directory of experts, our hub partners, who will guide you through your entrepreneurial author journey, writing, editing, publishing, launching, and marketing a book. We have free virtual networking events, Kindle flash sales that we mentioned earlier, and so much more. Check it all out at bizbookpubhub.com. Panel, again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.